This is Retire Hour.
Welcome into Retire Hour, the weekly show that keeps you up to date on the ever-changing landscape of your retirement. I'm Joshua Cicora, your host for this week. We've got a full show for you. Stay tuned for the back half of the episode, where we talk to Corey Hebert about what it takes what the cost is to work with one of our healthcare providers at Market Medicare Advisors. Then we'll turn to Alex Robinson to discuss why you should even worry about estate planning. And finally, we'll finish the show with Robert Carr about why you need a tax person, because all they really do is plug numbers in, right? You won't want to miss that. But to kick off the show, I've got Jonathan McCoy, financial advisor with Market Advisory Group, Kansas City. Jonathan, how are you this morning?
Too bad my lighting's a little different than yours, but we're happy to be here this week.
Awesome. So tell me what you got for us today.
Well, so you, Matt, and I were discussing before the show. Every week we try to come up with some stories that are pertinent to a wide variety of people. And just late last week we had met with a couple. Eugene and his wife had come in, and they don't really have any intent to need to use their retirement funds, which is kind of an interesting situation because he's a nonstop worker. He's involved in several different business entities, both his main business as well as his regular career job that he works 6 days a week, and he never plans to slow down. And ultimately, that income, that work ethic that he has, is going to deliver the income, or at least the vast majority of the income that they need throughout retirement. So one of their biggest concerns was on this multi-million-dollar portfolio that they came in with. The issue being that a lot of that money is in IRAs and 401ks from his current and previous employers. And what happens to that money if he winds up leaving, $1 million plus in IRAs to their children or grandchildren, especially from a tax perspective, and on top of the fact that he felt like he had been a little bit underserved over the last few years by their current advisors, which is one of the big, corner store big box advisory companies. We don't like to mention names here on the show, but sure. Ultimately, he was concerned that maybe he was overpaying a little bit in some fees. And, we talk a lot about the fact that fees are really only an issue in the absence of value. And those are some of the concerns they came to us with.
Yeah. So like you were talking about, he had this whole suite of advisors working with these other businesses, right? So he's got, like you said, 5 different businesses. So he's got 5 different voices in his ear. I'm assuming he's got a financial advisor working with him on the retirement accounts. So now there's a 6th advisor. I don't cook a lot, but I know cooking works even better when there's 6 cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the exact opposite ultimately is true in terms of how many different pieces of the financial, toolbox or ingredients, especially if we're using the kitchen analogy here. There's ultimately far too many cooks in the kitchen. And one of the interesting things was Eugene and his wife had already decided to start shifting some of their funds to another advisory service that was over 2.5 hours away as a result of a referral from one of his former work colleagues. And, he just felt like he was running the risk of potentially becoming splintered, not just between the different assets and, buckets of money that they had set aside for their retirement and ultimately their estate for their grandkids, but, running the risk that things are going to fall through the cracks. We mentioned with you on the show every week that, having a tax advisor to give your financial advisor a sense of direction on how this money should be managed is absolutely crucial to make sure that you're not letting money fall through the cracks. And that was, really the next step in our process, because this was just after the first meeting. I was reviewing their portfolio just yesterday, getting a better idea of what kind of advisory service fees and commissions and things they paid to their advisor, so that when we sit down in their next meeting, they can ultimately gain a full realization of what has it cost them to work with these advisors. And, a lot of folks, you don't know, a lot of people don't understand what it actually costs to work, from a dollars and cents standpoint, to work with a financial advisor. And if we're not delivering that value in return, really what's the sense in paying the fees? Because a lot of people can go out and invest in index funds for free in the open market today. And these are some of the additional services, both the tax advice, the estate planning advice, the healthcare management, as well as the investment management, which is the first piece that we're going to tackle for them.
One of the things we pride ourselves on is holistic advising, right? Not just the retirement piece, not just the tax piece, not just the estate, et cetera, but all these things working together for the person. And this is really an extension of that and the problem they're seeing, because they have all these different advisors who are each focused on just their one little piece of the pie, and nobody is looking at the entire picture for Eugene and Kathy. They're just looking at each little segment. I know one of the things you really pride yourself on is having a relationship with your clients, and that sounds like that's what they were really lacking here, is someone to hold their hand, someone to walk step by step through this process with them and help them manage the entire nest egg, so to speak, not just one piece or this piece or that piece.
Yeah, and in addition to that, another interesting detail was the fact that they've been working with one of these advisory service firms for over 20 years, and in that course of time, they've had 7 different advisors. The original advisor that they had hired to work with, they were the ones that they had the more friendly, neighborly relationship with. It was actually a gentleman that had gone to their church, and then when he moved on, I think ultimately he retired from the industry. They were handed another advisor. Things were going okay. They met once every couple of years. And as that has tailed off, and they've had 6 additional advisors since those early years working with this company, they really feel that they've grown to a disconnect between not just what's happening with their money, but the relationship and the understanding that that advisor has of their current financial situation, because they're not getting that ongoing, revisionary service of how their portfolio is expected to impact not just them now, but really the future generations of their family, because they've gotten to the point where they realize Eugene's going to be working. He's going to be, generating that income for himself because he never wants to quit. He never wants to stop. It's sort of that use it or lose it mindset, never really wanting to slow down until or unless something health-wise or whatever else might get in the way. But being that driven individual that he is, he needs to know that, and this is in his words, he needs to know that there is a team of people keeping an eye on the prize, more or less, which ultimately that prize now is growing and transitioning the portfolio for the benefit of his family, which is a little different than a lot of the circumstances that we talk about in terms of management of 401ks for long-term income withdrawals and tax management and investment growth and all of that. It's a very unique circumstance for this family in terms of preserving the value of that estate.
Yeah, and as unique as this is, this couple isn't alone. Every week we see people with a situation just like this. Someone who thought the damage was already done and nothing could fix it, only to be delighted to find out it could be fixed. We like to say everyone is unique, but there are common pitfalls that everyone falls into. And at Market Advisory Group, we can help you get out of it. If you'd like to set up a 15-minute introductory phone call to see what you might be missing from your retirement plans, reach out right now at 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-624-7376. Or go over to our website, retirehour.com. There you can watch past episodes, submit a question, or schedule that 15-minute call with the Market Advisory Group team. Now stay tuned. When we come back, we'll be talking with financial advisor Danny Goolsby about steps you can take to save your retirement from the tax man. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Retire Hour. This segment, we've got Danny Goolsby, financial advisor from Market Advisory Group, Wichita. Danny, we were talking a little bit in the break about how much people love dealing with the tax man.
It's always a fun topic to talk about, right? And so this time of year, everyone's getting all their tax forms together and preparing to prepare. And Matt will often say when we do workshops around the Metro, he'll say that when most of us do our tax work or our tax thinking, and that's in the spring of the year, which is what February, March, April, when we do our taxes.
Yep.
But you often say on the other side of that, but the genie's already out of the bottle at that point. So there's very little things you can do from a standpoint of planning when you're trying to prepare your taxes for the previous year to try to save money from the previous year. There's some things you can do, but again, it's kind of very, I would call, elementary type of approaches to investing. Or taxing, right?
Preach it, Danny.
Right? See, I'm a good little student. I've listened to you.
Awesome.
But so there are some things that we run into, and as with anything, there's nothing in the investing world, tax planning world that is one size fits all as far as, generally we want to pay as little taxes as possible, but there are many different routes to get there. And so when we run into a certain group of people, we may say, hey, let's talk about Roth conversions, or are you maxing out your Roth through your employer if they're still working? Are you doing Roth conversions and up to a certain level where you can tolerate that tax-wise. I'm going to bet that you probably recommend absolutely everybody you run across to max out their lower buckets and convert. That, in other words, that's probably not true.
No, no. We need to look at it for every person. Like we were talking about before the show. I need to get a hat that says it depends, because so often the answer is it depends on your situation.
Well, so we are more than a one-trick pony when it comes to tax planning, and I always enjoy sitting in on the appointments where I'm watching you do your magic, as it were. But steps to protecting your money or your savings, your life savings from the tax man. And so there's a book that I'm reading here, and he's by a nationally known author. His name is Ed Slott. He's a CPA out of Baltimore, Maryland. But he has on the back cover of his book and I just think this sounds so appropriate. So he says, whether your retirement are 5 years away or 50 years away, the single greatest threat standing in your way of retirement is taxes. And then he goes further. He goes, unlike losses in the stock market, money lost to taxes never recovers. With untaxed retirement accounts likely to become your largest asset, you face an explosive landscape of costly tax traps, penalties, and a complex maze of rules when it comes time to tap into those savings. And so, and again, that really rings true. Most of us as a culture, we will worry about something when we get there. In other words, the old joke when we were kids saying, we'll jump off that bridge when we get there, or I'll deal with that when I get there. But we talk about all the time with people, well, would you rather pay tax on the seed or tax on the harvest? So there are many different ways to try to make yourself more tax efficient. And as a financial advisor, the more tax efficient you make yourself, the better the yield you make on your investments, because you get to keep more of your money. So we talk often about Roths, and again, are you contributing to the Roth as much as you can, whether that's an IRA or that's a 401k, excuse me. But, and Ed Slott, he likes to say that Roth is Congress's single best gift. And if we're not doing that as a tax-paying public, we're missing out on the beginning of it. But then we want to go further, and like I said with Roth, just because Roth is a general good thing to talk about, doesn't mean it's right for everybody as far as the conversion part. I mean, again, it has to be right from a tax standpoint, and that's where you come in and start to see all those benefits.
That's right. That's right. I mean, sometimes in the conference room, people want to say, hey, I want to do Roth conversions. I think it's a great idea. Let's do it. And we'll start talking about their situation. And I mean, you've heard me. Yeah, Roth is a great idea, we'll say, but not this year. Let's talk about it again next year because of factor X, Y, or Z.
We just had someone in the conference room yesterday, actually, we were talking about in that regard. This person was a single person, and they were saying, well, should I just get it over with and just pay all of that? And I don't think that was your recommendation.
No, I never tell people to rip the Band-Aid off and just do it all at once.
Yeah, that's too painful.
Yep.
But so Roths are the things that are the low-hanging fruit. But let's talk about one that is a little more obscure and not used for one reason or another a lot of times, which could be very applicable for certain people. And that is the benefit of life insurance. So for someone who's in the planning age, the life ages of between 59 and a half and 73, so at age 73, that's when those RMD mandate from Uncle Sam kicks in, and we have to start taking money out of our qualified retirement plan. Sorry. Yep. Then, so if those RMDs haven't kicked in at that point, you want to take advantage of what can I do taking a withdrawal from my IRA at that time where I can make it, maybe pay the tax at a lower rate and make it tax-free forever. And so something that is often overlooked is life insurance. And so when the typical culture thinks of life insurance, they think of, well, I got to die to pay for it. And you'll hear the people say, well, I don't believe in life insurance and those kinds of topics. And that's fine. We often say, don't fall in love with your investments, fall in love with what they do for you. And sometimes, for the right situation, life insurance can be a very good benefit for the appropriate person. For example, I can use a right life insurance, and the life insurance proceeds can be tax-free to me during my lifetime and can be tax-free to my heirs at my death. And so I'm not necessarily trying to get a benefit. I'm not trying to make my estate bigger for my heirs of the life insurance. I'm trying to get the tax benefits that are available to me from a tax planning point of view. As you know, there are three different kinds of money. There's taxable money, which is the money you save and then you stick it in some bucket somewhere. It's trying to earn something. There's tax deferred money. Well, that would be like a traditional retirement plan. And there's tax free money, and that would be like Roth. But also in this case, that would be the life insurance. And so life insurance could be an interesting tool that most people can walk past that could be applicable as far as estate planning.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's important to have all these options, but getting to have all these options can be difficult. And so sometimes when we're faced with a decision or a problem that just seems too big like that, we often get paralyzed and end up doing nothing for weeks or months at a time while we try to figure out what to do. It can really help to have someone to talk to about these decisions. And when it comes to retirement, sometimes all it takes is a 15-minute phone call to find the right path to go down. So if you'd like to set up that 15-minute introductory phone call, reach out right now at 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-624-7376. Or go over to our website, retirehour.com. There you can watch past episodes, submit a question, schedule that 15-minute call with the Market Advisory Group team. Well, stay tuned. And when we come back, we'll be talking with Larry Clefcorn to answer a question from someone we met last weekend at the Home and Garden Show in Kansas City. And we'll be right back. Welcome back into Retire Hour. This last weekend, we had a booth at the Home and Garden Show at the Overland Park Convention Center, where we got to meet some great people and talk to them, who were probably our listeners. We're also at the WABA Home Show in Wichita this weekend, if you want to come down and see us. And right now, we've got Larry Clefcorn in the studio to answer a question we got at that Kansas City Home and Garden Show. Larry, the question this week comes to us from DS. D asks, the women in my family all live active lives up to their mid-90s. What is the right way to plan for retirement for people who expect to live long lives? Larry, I bet you have some thoughts on this.
Well, I do. There's a lot of ways to approach this. I'll get the one that probably is the least exciting out of the way first. That type of person might want to work a little longer.
Well, that's not exciting.
That's not exciting at all. But hey, it's a thought. It's realistic.
Yeah.
Unless they have ample funds saved up in retirement, where that wouldn't matter. So what would you do in a case where they have ample funds and, can be assured that for as long as they live, even into their 90s, mid-90s, maybe even more, you just don't know.
Yeah.
Something that is going to continue until your last day. And that is when we will incorporate into an overall plan lifetime income. There are several different ways to provide lifetime income. There are some good ways, but there are some very much better ways. And since you've heard me use this term before, I don't like cookie cutter plans. So that's why we build these plans individually for people. Another thought that would go with this is if they're married and the husband has retirement as well, and in particular, if he has a pension, he's going to want to select. Probably he'll need to select a survivor option. So at his death, there will be a payment that will continue for his wife, usually those are offered where it could be half what he received, or 3/4, or you could do it full. But those are considerations that need to take place because oftentimes you have only one shot at it. You got to get it right.
That's right. And so there's different options for different people is what you're saying.
Yes.
But the key is to have a plan and start that plan early. Don't try to come in when you're, like 75 and say, hey, how do I get there? These plans need to be put into place much sooner, right? Right. And so then it's important to have all these different components start coming together, probably while you're still working, right? And then to have that plan to get you from where you're at today to your mid to late 90s or even further.
Yes, and all the while you're building that plan for them, you want to make it so it's nimble also, and so adjustments can be made. I have this plaque that sits right on my desk, and it says, "We cannot adjust, we cannot direct the winds, but we can adjust the sails." And so I think that's an important aspect. That good old sailboat, those sails can be adjusted, and if we set it up right. Now, I suppose there would be some other considerations as well. I know in the segment before where you spoke to Danny, he talked about some life insurance. If that is properly planned and they qualify for it and what have you, there is the benefit of where you could use cash value as income that would be tax-free, which leads me to pitching this to our tax advisor who sits in your chair. And that would be proper tax planning could help the longevity of your income. Is that correct?
That's absolutely a fair statement. A lot of times when we talk about Roth conversions, we're looking at passing those funds, whatever's left, to that next generation. But if you are looking at, having your money last into your late 90s or even further, that Roth conversion then takes on a different feature in that you need it to sit there and grow while you use your other funds, so that when you're in those later years, you've got a pot of tax-free money that you can then tap into and generate that income that's had all that time to grow, not just from the market, but the fact that there's no taxes on it.
Right.
And so then again, that comes into that place where we want to put a plan together that's not set in stone, that can be adjusted from year to year as market conditions change, as tax law changes, as their life circumstances change. I mean, just because they see their ancestry having a long life doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have that. Medicine's things can change,
But better to plan.
Better to have that plan and not need it than the other way around, right? And so, if you find yourself at a loss with what to do with your retirement, maybe you've been putting it off because it all just seems too complicated. Well, don't put it off any longer. Sometimes all it takes is a 15-minute call to see what you might be missing from your retirement plans. And if you'd like to set up that 15-minute introductory phone call, reach out right now at 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-624-7376. Or go over to our website, retirehour.com. There you can watch past episodes, submit a question, or schedule that 15-minute introductory call. Well, stay tuned, and we'll be right back talking with Corey Hebert from our healthcare team about working with Market Medicare Advisors. And we'll be right back. Welcome back into Retire Hour. We just spent the last half hour talking with several of our financial advisors with Market Advisor Group. And at most investment firms, that'd be the end of it. So we'll see you next week, right? But no, we do things a little bit different here. We know that retirement isn't just about investments. We know that taxes play a big role in how long your money lasts. Estate planning can impact how much of your legacy gets passed to the next generation. And that's why we take the back half of our show to discuss some of those other aspects of retirement. So now, with me in the studio, I've got Corey Hebert, health insurance advisor with Market Medicare Advisors. Corey, what will it cost for someone to work with the health insurance providers at Market Medicare Advisors?
Yeah, Josh, that's a great question, and one that we get just about everywhere that we go to do a presentation or have people call in. Or I've even had some clients of Danny's sit in my office, and when I'm done helping them, they pull out their wallet and they're ready to, what do we owe you? And they think that there needs to be a fee that we charge for our services, because as people start to look at Medicare, they oftentimes are going to be frustrated. They're going to be ununderstanding of what's going on because of all the information that's out there, and they can feel pretty defeated. And at Market Medicare Advisors, they come in and meet with us, and now all of these negative emotions that they've been feeling are magically gone. So naturally, there should be a cost for making those bad feelings go away.
Makes sense to me.
When in all reality, there is never a fee directly for working with our advisors. The plans that we represent are the same exact plans that anybody could go out and purchase by themselves. They don't pay any more for working for us or working with us. We do get reimbursed by insurance companies for helping people make those right decisions.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was thinking here you're this great humanitarian working with all these people out of the goodness of your heart, right? But I mean that does play into it, right? You are worried about people either getting bad information, which you see, or you're worried about them not getting information, which then gives all those negative emotions you were just talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Medicare is it's a topic that I had a gal call in yesterday that we've been working together for going on 2 years. And she called in, Josh, almost on the verge of tears because she was talking with a coworker, and her coworker said, "Oh, you have that plan, but I have this plan, and here is why your plan is so incredibly wrong for you." And she called me just about breaking down because these are friends and family members that she's known forever and that she trusts, and they're telling her about how wrong the decision she made was. When in all actuality, we looked over all of the options, and actually it kind of caused some concerns for is her friend in the right plan, because her friend had said some things that just weren't true about the plan that she was on. So I definitely know, like from the tax side, I'm sure you hear this all the time about, well, my friend told me they could deduct this from their taxes or this weird strategy out there. When in all actuality, there's just so much information out there that talking with a trusted professional is so important, and we don't want a barrier to talking to that professional in the healthcare, specifically the Medicare space.
That's really a great point to bring up, that there's so much information out there, and then mix in the misinformation of people half hearing things, misinterpreting things that they just sort of off the fly. For most people, dealing with health insurance is not their day job, right? They're doing other things, and they're just kind of gathering this information in the background, trying to help them make decisions. You, on the other hand, it's the reverse, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I do all day long. I wake up in the middle of the night and I just scream Medicare and sit up in my bed because it's always on my mind. People are used to, within their working environment, one time a year, they're going to have somebody come into the office and they're going to sit down and they're going to say, do you want option number 1, option number 2, or option number 3 when it comes to your health care for the next 365 days? And they just get to sit down, circle an option, and forget about it for the rest of the year. But whenever we start to talk about Medicare, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of options that any given individual is going to have. And the decisions that you make, specifically talking about your employer insurance, that's just 1 year that you made a decision for. Whenever we talk about Medicare, whenever you first start, we start to make decisions that can impact you for the rest of your life, potentially. And that is why it is so critical that as people are having these frustrating, ununderstanding feelings, that they do sit down with somebody that does this on a day-to-day basis.
And probably what's even scarier is, I know, like, when we do open enrollment, I think we have 4 or 5 plans to choose from. On Medicare, I'm sure it's the same way, right?
Not quite exactly. There's, like I said, a couple hundred or 1,000. And even here in the office, Josh, we used to be consolidated down to like 3 plans, and this year they came out with 4 or 5, and that kind of sparked some people to come down and ask me what they should do with their health insurance here at work. The more options you have, it's going to take a little bit more thought and consideration to narrow down what specifically, given my needs, is going to be the right plan for me. And it's not going to be the same answer as maybe your parents or your friends or your neighbors or your bridge partners or whatever.
Right, right, because everybody's healthcare needs are different, right? Some people may be taking this medicine, some people may be having that health condition, and those things I have to imagine play into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Medications, frequency of visiting the doctor, and even looking on into health history. Some people may think this is weird, but whenever I meet a new prospect, we probably take 15 to 20 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, and we just ask some of the difficult questions. What does your health history look like? Are your parents still with us? Tell me about your healthcare usage. And those aren't necessarily things that people are expecting to talk about. They're just wanting to come in and pick a plan. But all of that background information is going to give us what we need to make a good decision.
Ooh, things get so complicated with retirement. I don't know how anyone can just deal with Medicare on their own. And you don't have to. Sometimes all it takes is 15 minutes to see what might be missing from your retirement plan. And if you'd like to set up that 15-minute introductory phone call, reach out right now at 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-624-7376. Or go over to our website, retirehour.com. There you can watch these past episodes, submit a question, or schedule that 15-minute call with the entire team. Well, stay tuned. When we come back, we'll be talking with Alex Robinson from the Eidelman Law Firm about why you even need to worry about estate planning. And we'll be right back after this. Well, welcome back into Retire Hour. With me in studio, I've got Alex Robinson from the Eidelman Law Firm. Alex, why do we even need to worry about estate planning? Doesn't that all just work itself out? I mean, I'm not going to be here to see how it plays out. Why am I worrying about this?
Yeah. What prompted me for this question was actually talking to my 9-year-old the other day. She asked, "What do you even do for work, Dad?" And I explained it a little bit. And she said, "Why do you even need estate planning?" And I think that's a question that a lot of people have. And, the reality is, for a long time, for most people's lives, they don't need to worry about it because life just kind of happens and you're rolling with the punches. And as life occurs, you just do whatever comes naturally. And as you get older and age and have children, you need to start acting a little bit more proactively instead of reactively. And what we see a lot of times is that people aren't prepared for what life throws at them, whether that's their spouse becomes incapacitated either due to a stroke or a heart attack or a car accident or a fall. They don't have the proper planning in place. They don't have the things they need to be able to take care of that person. And so now they're having to go to court. They need to spend, $2,000 in 2 months to get guardianship and conservatorship. And then they're going to court every year to make sure that the court knows how much money they're spending. And it's a lot of hoops that you got to jump, and it's just not a fun time.
I'll be honest. Just hearing you describe all that, I'm exhausted already.
Yeah, I mean, and the real burden is not even really those things. It's those things on top of dealing with an already traumatic event. And the same occurs with when someone passes. If you don't have a plan in place, it puts a real burden on the people that you care about. I've dealt with several people recently. We had one person who didn't know that they were going to be the executor of their sister's will. They didn't know that they were going to receive anything. They had no idea what to do next. And that unknowing feeling, that is terrifying. She was really worried about getting in trouble with the law. She was really worried about what steps she needed to take to be in compliance. And, after sitting down and talking with us, that was a real, it was a weight lifted off of her. But that was something she dealt with for the whole time after her sister died, trying to figure out, can she pay for the funeral? Can she, close the house? Can she sell property? What are the things she's allowed and not allowed to do?
This really makes me think of that old adage, a failure to plan is a plan to fail.
Yeah, and you can get away with some things for a while. Like I said, if nothing bad happens in your life, hey, that's fantastic, and I'm very glad for you. but life just happens in ways that we don't expect. And if you don't have a plan in place, you're right, you might be gone, but the people that care about you are now needing to pick up the pieces. They might not know where those bank accounts are. They might not know if there's a trust or a will. They might not know what their role is in that. And it's quite frankly a terrifying and exhausting thing to go through on top of losing someone else.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, this reminds me I need to review my own estate plan.
Yeah, come on in. But because even if you have a plan and you don't communicate that to the people that are going to be involved in the plan, whether that's your beneficiaries or your power holders, the people that are going to be the executor or the trustee or that are your powers of attorney, that plan will be there and it will be helpful after it's been explained to everyone. But if those people don't understand the plan, then again, that's a huge burden on them until they go in to see an attorney and have it explained.
Or I can't, like you were saying, once it's explained to them, and if they don't even know that there is a plan, then that's even worse because they're going to have to make up that plan as they go. And I cannot imagine that being very successful.
Right. And so the whole point of estate planning is to have a plan in place. And when there's a plan in place, to communicate that plan to the people that you care about, to the people that are going to be involved, because what we want is for life to be planned out. And when something happens, because it's going to happen to all of us, that plan is known by everyone so they don't have to worry about the logistical side of it. That part's taken care of so you can really focus on the things that actually matter.
Just as you're talking here, it's a little bit like a football team, right? The coach is going to come up with those plans, the plays, but if he doesn't communicate them to the rest of the team, then we wouldn't still be paying attention to football here as we get into February, right?
Yeah, it takes a whole team. Quite frankly, if I do my part and I'm not talking to tax planners or their retirement people, then I don't have a full picture, and so I can't make a plan that works for them.
Right. It takes a whole team to make this all work together. And that's why we're all here under one roof, so that people, as they come in with these different needs, we can then bring in the other professionals to help address those needs. And, Matt will often talk about how someone will ask a question, which then leads to another question, which leads to another question. And those questions will get outside of our lanes individually. But when we're all here, we're working together, we can then bring those in and address them all together. Estate planning isn't something you really want to put off to the last minute. It's better to have these powers of attorney, these account beneficiaries, Medicaid plans, all set up before something awful happens. So if you'd like to set up a 15-minute introductory phone call just to talk to us to see about what might be missing from your plan, reach out right now at 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-624-7376. Or go over to our website, retirehour.com. There you can watch those past episodes, submit your own question, or schedule a 15-minute phone call with the Market Advisor Group team. Well, stay tuned. When we come back, we'll turn to Robert Carr with taxes, and I will be right back. Well, welcome back into Retire Hour. To round out the show, here in my favorite segment, funny enough, I've got Robert Carr in studio with me to talk about taxes. Robert, why do people need a tax person? I mean, let's be honest here. They're just plugging these numbers into the computer, right? People can just do that on their own with some kind of off-the-shelf tax software, or tax website, or hey, you can just print those forms out yourself and just fill them out pencil and paper, right?
Yeah, you can. And then you'll be coming to see us here soon after that to fix it all. At least that can happen. Tax preparers provide more than just data input. We provide knowledge and experience. We know where to go look for the deductions. Those off-the-box softwares, they'd be great for like a W-2 individual. But once you start getting more complicated information in your return, are you getting all the deductions that you need? They ask you a generic list of questions. Those questions may or may not pick up on those deductions that you're needing or that you're missing. And we sit here and we ask you the pertinent questions to drill down and find out that information that's needed to get you the maximum deductions possible, get you those credits that you might have been missing, offer opportunities that you didn't know about. There's lots of items in the tax code that people are like, well, how can I go do that? Well, here's ways to do that. Unfortunately, some of that costs money and time, and well, that's part of it. You're paying for our expertise.
In the last segment, we were talking a little bit with Alex and using a football metaphor, right? And talking about how there's a set of rules, and then the coach has a plan, and he communicates that plan out to the entire team. The tax code is just another set of rules, right? And so you need that coach to not just say, okay, we need 11 people on the field. 3 or 4 of them are going to run out. These other people are going to, set up a pocket and protect the quarterback who's going to, get the ball where it needs to go. You need someone to say, okay, this guy's going to run that way. This other guy's going to run this way, which creates an opportunity. And then with that opportunity, then we can be in a place to score, right? Yeah. And a tax plan is a little bit like that, right? The, scoring is getting that return that gets you the answer you're looking for. But if you don't have that plan in place, you might have the right 11 guys on the field, and they might be all great at what they do. But unless you have that plan, you're not going to get to where you want to go, right?
Yeah. If those 11 guys aren't working together to move in one direction, who knows where that ball's going to go? Right. And wouldn't you rather have the ball in your court or whatnot and be able to control that? Yeah, every time. I would much rather write the history than just record the history. That's all a tax return is a history report. Tax planning is writing the history. Having a knowledgeable individual on your corner that knows the code, can help you navigate everything and plan it out. You can write your own history.
And so that's a lot of what we do when we work with clients, whether it's on, the working with the financial advising clients and setting people up for that successful retirement, whether it's working with our small businesses and helping them optimize what they're already doing, just doing it in a slightly different fashion to get a better tax answer. So much of this comes down to not just letting things happen to you, not just letting that bad event happen and then you don't have that estate plan, not letting you just pick the Medicare plan that your neighbor has and then letting, life's events play out, but about putting that plan all together so that then you can drive your next 20 years, whether you're retired, whether you're still working, whatever, to where you want it to go. And so it's when we're all working together, we're going to start seeing more success because people are not just letting life happen. They're telling life, okay, I'm going to put this plan together to get me to wherever that might be.
Yeah. Having the plan in place, having the team in place, not just a good accountant, but the whole team, a retirement specialist, an attorney, Medicare specialist, any other individuals that you'd be surprised at how many advisors people really actually have. You might not think they're advisors. They might not have the title of advisor, but they have an advisory capacity. Having that team in place to help you build that plan for the future is extremely important.
We've got about a minute or so left here. We're getting into tax filing season. I know that's just this recording history we were just talking about. Do you have any last minute tips or things people to keep in mind as we're moving into getting those returns done?
Get your information in early and communicate any changes. One of the biggest things that we've run into the last couple of years is things happen. People forget that, hey, we did sell our house this past year. Well, that needs to be reported. I do have crypto, or I'm invested in a ETF that has crypto. Well, then you're still invested in crypto, and that has to be reported. Different things like that. Stuff that is the big changes. Had a new kid.
That's a big
that's
change.
a big thing. We want to make sure we get that added. So, if you have something that is concerning, if you have something that someone has brought to your attention, bring that up to your tax preparer. If you don't have someone to talk about with that, come to us.
We know somebody who might be able to help with that.
We can help you with that. So your tax software, they're not going to be able to advise you on that. They ask you a question. You have to know the answer.
That's right. We can't, the tax software can't ask really follow-up questions.
Yeah.
They can't interpret what you're saying. It can't, look at, play off of the things that you're telling it. It can only really answer yes or no questions. People can do some of this on their own. If you study tax law well enough, you could even do a good job at putting this all together. But you could also be leaving money on the table for Uncle Sam to snatch up. And sometimes all it takes to find out what you're missing is that 15-minute introductory phone call. And you can set up that 15-minute call with Market Advisor Group to see how we can help, to see why might be missing that you don't even know about. So to do so, just reach out right now, 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-624-7376. Or go over to our website, retirehour.com. There you can watch past episodes, submit a question, or schedule that 15-minute call with the entire Market Advisor Group team. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. I'm Joshua Cicora, thanking you for tuning in to Retire Hour, and we'll see you next week.
Unless otherwise indicated, all client names have been changed to protect their identities. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Edelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. A Roth conversion may not be suitable for your situation. The primary goal in converting retirement assets into a Roth IRA is to reduce the future tax liability on the distributions you take in retirement or on the distributions of your beneficiaries. The information provided is to help you determine whether or not a Roth IRA conversion may be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Please review your retirement savings, tax, and legacy planning strategies with your legal/tax advisor to be sure a Roth IRA conversion fits into your planning strategies. All rights reserved.